Welcome to She Trusts Herself, the podcast for women who are learning to trust themselves, honour their inner voice, and choose themselves without guilt. I'm your host, Tashleem, author, guest speaker, and certified human design reader. Together, we'll explore overcoming self-doubt, building deep self-trust, personal growth, and stepping into the next version of yourself with confidence. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk about knowing when it's time to set a boundary. Most of the time, we know that we need to set boundaries to protect our time, energy, money, peace, mental health, all of the things, but it feels really uncomfortable to do, especially if we are typically known by people around us as being the super chill, easygoing kind of human. It can feel really uncomfortable when you do start to set boundaries because it shocks people. And the reason it shocks them is because they're so used to you being a doormat, and it works to their advantage. When you're around people that like to take and not give, then sometimes they use that to their advantage, especially if you are someone that goes, yep, no worries, I'll just do this and it's totally fine. It doesn't matter if it's last minute or you've got 50 other things that you want to do. You're there to help other people. Some telltale signs that you may be ready to set that boundary is noticing how you're feeling. If you are feeling super tense, or you feel your cortisol rising, or you have to suppress your thoughts, feelings, or words that you would like to share with people, that's typically an indicator that there's an unmet boundary there. I'll give you a personal example. My hubby and I, we host events for family and occasionally for friends. And we usually do it because we enjoy it. But we reached a point a few years ago, especially with me, where hosting the events just didn't feel very enjoyable. It felt like we were constantly the ones that were bringing people together, and hosting an event is not stress-free, and it's also not the cheapest thing to do in the world either. And so we would do it because we loved it, and then we reached that point where we thought it's actually just too stressful. Over the years, we have, I kid you not, we've had 2 people announce pregnancies, and my first thought at both of those was, oh my gosh, I wish I had known, because I've put out food that they can't eat. And I felt guilty for that. I didn't even think, okay, why are they announcing their pregnancy at an event we're hosting? Why didn't they host something themselves if they had big news to share? That thought didn't even cross my mind until later that day and everyone had left. We've also had people bringing along petitions to sign at our housewarming about random things, and we've had people rock up super early. All of that would just stress me out completely, and I felt like I was just having to internalize how I was feeling and really suppress the anger and frustration, and also the feelings of disrespect to a certain point. It made me realize, okay, we need to draw a line in the sand. We need to set a boundary here. Last year, I communicated it, because if you don't communicate a boundary and you expect other people to just know about it, then that's also going to backfire terribly, because how will they be able to read your mind and know that they've overstepped a boundary you haven't told them about? I have made that mistake before. So I let people know, I said, hey, we are only going to be hosting events for these specific purposes. We were actually going to host a big Christmas in July event, because when we were thinking about it, it felt like something that would be really fun and enjoyable to do. And as the time got closer, we realized, no, this is actually going to be super stressful. It's also going to be costly, and we have other things that we want to focus on. So we made the decision to cancel the event. That actually felt like a weight lifted off our shoulders. I think if we had gone ahead with it, then it would have felt very stressful, and we would have been a little bit resentful, even though no one asked us to host it. It's also just paying attention to the reason why you're doing it. Are you doing things for other people, or is it something that you genuinely want to do? Another thing is, we would have people consistently arrive before the start time. So if we were hosting, say, a family dinner, we'd say, okay, it's on this date, starting at this time. People would rock up half an hour beforehand. There wouldn't even be a heads up, oh, we're running early, is it okay if we come? They would just literally knock on the door, and
expect to be let in. That was so stressful because we were still setting up and they would be eating some of the snacks we were going to put out and just not even offering to help. One time we were hosting a family dinner. We had a very busy morning and afternoon, and so we had limited time to prepare things. We heard a knock on the door and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. We were in the middle of rolling up some chicken meatballs or something like that. And I thought, not this time, like absolutely not letting them in. So I said, I'm sorry to be an asshole, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave and come back. And there was other family nearby, so I suggested that they either go to a park or go visit them because we're not ready to have you right now. The event starts at this time and you're early. They were taken aback. To their credit, they respected what we said, needed to set that boundary and remind them, hey, it's not cool that you're rocking up way earlier. Like, we've agreed to a start time, and just because it's convenient for you to rock up before that doesn't mean it's convenient for us as the host. That was a boundary I knew I needed to set. Another area of your life where you may need to look at setting some boundaries is in a professional setting, whether it's at work or in your business, because unfortunately some people see kindness and giving as weakness and they will take advantage of that, and it's up to you to set that boundary and communicate with them, okay, these are the things that I'm prepared to do, and if you're doing something outside of that, then it's not going to get answered. So for instance, if you've got a client who you're working with one-on-one or in a group setting, you may need to say to them, okay, these are the ways that you can reach me and these are the times that I will respond. Anything received outside of that will not be responded to until I'm back. And you've got to communicate those with them and set those expectations, because otherwise they will expect an instant response. If you choose to make it a flexible boundary, so subject to your capacity and availability, then that's on you. But just know sometimes when you do have a flexible boundary, then that may actually confuse people, because they will learn, okay, well, sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not. And they will keep testing their luck. Similarly with work, if you are someone that constantly takes on extra work or maybe does the ad hoc things around the office, maybe as emptying the dishwasher or tidying up the fridge at the end of the week, other people will just expect that it's going to get done because you're the office fairy that takes care of all of those things in the background. That can lead to feelings of resentment and feeling undervalued and underappreciated, because people take it for granted and they just expect that you're going to do it. There's no thank you, there's no offer of help. There's just something else extra for you to do. The moment that you don't do it, they're like, oh, wait a minute, why haven't you done it? But there's never the praise or recognition when you do it, which is just wild. It's setting those boundaries and saying, okay, I'm going to empty the fridge this week. Next week, someone else is going to do it. And don't even give people an option if you can. Just tell them, like, this is it. I will do it this time, and then someone else can. That way, they can't argue with it because you've told them you will need to do it. Don't even give them an option where possible. Just tell them you need them to do this. Because if you say, hey, would you mind doing it? Then that gives them an out. But if you tell them, the responsibility transfers across to them. And if they don't do it, then that's a reflection of them, because you've already said, hey, I need you to do this. If people are expecting you to do above and beyond your role because they know that you have capacity and you're very efficient and effective, it's knowing where you feel comfortable drawing that line in the sand. There may be days where you think, okay, I'm happy to help out, and there'll be other times where you're working on something that is a priority and then someone goes, I need you to do this for me. There's nothing wrong with you, even though it's going to feel almost confronting and potentially a little bit aggressive if you're used to being more easygoing and carefree, is to go, okay, if you would like me to do this, I'm actually working on something that is a priority right now and it's going to take me X amount of hours or days to do. Would you like me to put this on hold so I can do this for you? Or is there someone else that you can ask to do this because I don't have the time and capacity to do this for you? If you automatically default to yes every single time, then you're just going to get more and more work. Sometimes people need to be held responsible, for want of a better phrase, for doing their own job, especially when people go, oh, I'll just leave this with you. And you think, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with you doing it. It's just you don't want to. Another aspect where you can look at setting boundaries is maybe you're someone that likes to plan out your week. And even if that week doesn't go according to the plan that you originally set, you might have your time scheduled and know what you're doing when. So when friends, family, whoever it may be, come in with spontaneous last minute requests, it may be enough to make your blood boil. This is where they don't know your schedule and they just expect that you might be free. If you feel really frustrated and annoyed by that, then you can say no. You could say something along the lines of, thank you so much for thinking of me. I've already scheduled my time, or I've already got plans. You don't need to go any further than that. If they are consistently doing last minute things and trying to pressure you into it or making you feel guilty when you say no, you could say something along the lines of, I appreciate where you're coming from. However, I am not a spontaneous person, or I'm not someone that likes agreeing to things last minute because I scheduled my time and I've allocated the time to something else. And I need to protect that. And it's making them aware of, you need a couple of days notice before considering something. Or if they want someone to do something last minute with them, you're not that person. And that is totally fine because we all operate differently. Some people love to be super spontaneous, and other people, the thought of that is enough to make them reach for a paper bag. With boundaries, it is going to feel icky at first if you're not used to setting them. But once you do start and get through that, then I promise you it gets a lot easier because people know where your head's at. It also means you get to call them out if they are overstepping something because you've communicated your need with them, and that gives you a line in the sand. If someone does overstep a boundary that you've communicated, you can remind them what the consequences of that are. Enforcing the boundary can make you feel like a terrible human, and it has for me at times because I think, oh, I don't want to be the asshole in this situation, but then I reframe it and go, okay, but I've communicated my need. I've let them know what is and isn't tolerated, and they've chosen to ignore that, push the boundary and overstep it. One, they're being disrespectful because they've heard what I've said, chosen to ignore it and do what they want to anyway. Two, they've put me in this position. So they've chosen the consequence themselves, because if they had acknowledged and followed through with the boundary and just respected it, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. That's something to remind yourself of. If you are in Perth and you're listening to this, at the time of recording, I am hosting a mid-year reset workshop on the 26th of July at Green Street Cafe, and tickets are $25. I will give you more boundary scripts, and you can go through what your top 3 core values are and name your number 1 priority for the rest of the year, so you can finish 2026 with a bang and intentionally.
And that's a wrap on another episode. If this one resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future conversations, and share it with someone else who's learning to trust herself again. You can connect with me on Instagram, Tash, where I share more about self-trust, personal growth, and human design. If you'd like to go deeper, you can explore my books and offerings, all designed to support you as you build self-trust and step into the next version of yourself with confidence. Until next time, please remember that you are not too much or too little. You're just you. Keep choosing yourself.